Welcome to the March to a Million podcast with Greg DuPont, founder of the Wealth Solutions Network. In this podcast, Greg shares his journey to positively impact 1 million lives by creating an army of financially minded attorneys who embrace an expanded role in their clients' lives. Greg and his guests challenge the status quo in the legal profession and the financial services industry, and show attorneys how they can improve their lives, provide greater value to their clients, and experience greater professional satisfaction. Join us in this movement and strengthen your business by learning how to solve your clients' most pressing financial problems.
So my guest here today is Josh Kelley of Citadel Benefits Group. And as you will learn, Josh is, he's got a little bit of an accent for those of us in the Midwest. He's one of my friends from the Southern world, and in a place that few people really know the history of, but I found out the history of it just a little while ago, and I can't wait to have an opportunity to go down and visit Josh Kelley down in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Right, Josh?
Yeah, that's it.
You know, I watched that documentary, and I thought to myself, boy, I thought all that sound came from Motown, but no, all that stuff was coming from your own town there.
Yep.
So the reason I've got Josh on here is not to talk about music, but to talk about a program that he brings to employers that has profound economic benefit for both the employers and the employees, and repositions money. So I believe that this is something to take a pencil to paper and listen to as this podcast goes forward, to think about. Well, I think, Josh, you said anybody that's got more than call it a dozen employees might benefit from this incredibly. So with that, Josh, thank you for your time and joining us here on the podcast. And please take a second to introduce yourself a little bit more than I have.
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. Thanks so much. Excited to be here. Excited to have this conversation today and chat with your tribe here. So yeah, Josh Kelley. I'm in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. So that's in the northwest part of the state. We are not on the coast, and they think that is. When I say Muscle Shoals, everybody thinks we're down on the beach. We are not. We are almost to Tennessee and almost to Mississippi. So I've been in the benefits side of things for several years. Been in the insurance business most of my adult life. And back in 2019, we came across this program, and it's just been crazy ever since then. You know, I own a Citadel Benefits Group, and we are a little unique in this space. We're called a general agent, but we broker, employee benefits for companies all across the country. But we work specifically with other agents in the field and other partners, tax attorneys and other financial advisors and CPAs. And you guys are as much my client as the end user is. So excited to show this to you and have a conversation about it today.
Great. So when we start talking about employee benefits, this is something that as a small business owner myself, is something that there's a point where you grow to the spot where you've got enough revenues to start giving benefits to your employees, and then when you start thinking about it, you go, oh my Lord, this is a big undertaking, and the cost, can I really do this and make these promises to my employees? I want to do it, but I've got these issues with regard to this hurdle I need to get past. Tell me why, other than altruism and all those good things, it's time. There comes a time to do this for your employees, and then when we made the decision to do this for our employees, how can it be beneficial to us as well?
Yeah. No, absolutely. At the end of the day, all small business owners want to offer more things, but, especially right now, the climate we're in, everything's expensive, and on average, and we're looking 25, 30% increase in your insurance, your liability stuff, your expenses, your cost, depending on the industry. There's so many things. And then you factor in that right now, it's so hard to find and keep employees. You really have to have some type of benefits in place. You rewind back, 5 years ago, here where I live in Alabama, the average household income's around 35,000 a year. You could live off of that. It's very different nowadays, but back then, a really good plant job for somebody was $15 an hour. Well, fast forward now, you can go make 18, 20 at Target working part time. So it's a different situation. And so you look at the cost of employees, not just what I pay them by the hour, but you have payroll taxes and you have all the other things that come along with it. It's this weird situation where these business owners get into where, hey, I want to do something. I know I need to do something, but hey, can I even afford this? Where do I go about doing it? How do I start? What does this look like? There's a lot of noise, I guess you could say, in the marketplace, but I kind of put it in comparison to, I remember, you say somebody goes to work for the city or they go to work for the state, talk about how great their benefits are and those type of things. Well, nowadays, everybody's got to really have the same if you want to be competitive and, recruit high caliber talent. I'm not going to get somebody that's a high caliber to come to work for me if I don't offer to pay for part of their health insurance, or if I'm not going to offer some type of retirement or other things. So you have to do that now to compete. Everybody's had to level up. And with that being said, the challenge is all the expenses have gone up, but not necessarily that's equated to our profits either, business wise. So it's a challenge, but really in a nutshell, you really have to do it to compete nowadays to get the people. Everybody that I talk to that's, you hear this every day, with other business owners. It's, well, I can't get it. I can't hire anybody. I can't get anybody to come to work for us. But most of the people that I hear say that, it's not every situation is, they're not paying them very well. They don't have good benefits. And, so I've never had a problem hiring people because we make a good environment for them to work, the culture and all of that, but also we have great benefits and we pay them decent. So I think all of that comes into play to where, it's more of as much of a education, re-education on these employers as anything, but you really, to compete, you have to do it.
So you make a compelling argument there that this is just to be competitive in the employee marketplace, you need to have this. And so getting past that barrier of implementing and, talking to some of the people in our tribe that actually might want to partner with you to bring this to their clients. Tell me how you guys work to reduce the burden of implementation on both the employer and maybe a partner that brings you into the conversation.
For sure. So we're going to kind of talk about the things that health insurance doesn't pay for. Health insurance, there's not really a good solution for it. Nobody's really happy with their health plan. It's going to go up every year. There's a lot of challenges with that. At all costs, I try to run away from being the health insurance guy because it's not fun. And we do a lot of advising and become a resource and consulting on that. But we try not to sell it. We can, but we try not to. But let's kind of talk about those supplemental, those ancillary benefits, those things that cover those out-of-pocket expenses that health insurance doesn't pay for. When you look at health insurance, I think everybody that's listening to this now, you rewind 10 years ago, we had a pretty good health plan, right? I remember I was paying $400 a month, great coverage, low deductibles. Now I think I'm paying $2,100 a month, and I'm 41 and pretty healthy, it's just not a really good option. So what's happened is these companies have slowly bumped up those deductibles, and when you look at a deductible on anything, I kind of compare it to how much risk am I willing to take on me, right? The lower the deductible, the less risk on me, the more on the insurance company, the higher the premium. The higher deductible, less risk on them, more on me, the lower the premium. Well, in order to make things to where people could actually afford it, they've had to raise up those deductibles so high that, it's really just kind of covering catastrophic things. So when you look at these supplemental plans like, life insurance, accident policies, short-term disability, critical illness, hospital indemnity, vision, dental, all of those type of things that's not health insurance, that's what they're designed to do, is kind of bridge that gap in between there and help you cover those out-of-pocket costs. Well, traditionally, if we would go into a business and we would talk to that business owner on, hey, why you should go with our company and our the product we're offering here from this, and we get across that. We meet with that employee. Ultimately, that napkin's kind of stuck in our shirt right here, right? Because I'm talking to them about their check going down. It doesn't matter how much they want or need these products. If they can't afford it, doesn't really matter. And I don't know exactly what the stats are, Greg, but I would assume it's close to 90%. The percentage of Americans that are living check to check. I know the amount of savings that people have is just ridiculously low. And, that extra $20, $30 or whatever makes a difference for them on that paycheck. So it doesn't matter how much they need this product or how good of a salesperson I am. When I'm talking to that employee, if they can't afford it, it doesn't really matter. So what happens is that when we're talking to them, I'm a good salesperson. Our team's great. We would get 40, 50% of them to purchase something, but it's not going to be everything that they would want. But what happens is the only people that buy it are obviously the people that can't afford it. Well, those other, bank of employees that need it the most, they can't afford to buy those. So with the program that we have in place now, it's called a SIMRP. And people who listen probably never heard of this before. It's SIMRP. It stands for Self-Insured Medical Reimbursement Program. And so where the program came about was, back in 2014, when the Affordable Care Act officially went into place. As we all know, it changed a ton of things. We've already talked about the expense of our healthcare and all of that. But one of the goals of the politicians that put that in place was they were trying to get our population healthier, right? So that makes a ton of sense because it's less taxing on the system. The more we can kind of catch early from a preventative and wellness standpoint, the better it is for everything down the road. Well, in order to accomplish that, there's some new tax codes that came into place. Well, what we did was we basically took those new tax codes, we put them together with some that's been around for a while. We created this program. So in a nutshell, what it does is it saves the employer an average of around $550 per employee per year in payroll taxes, which right off the bat, I'm sitting down with an employer and saying, hey, listen, I can save you a bunch of money in your payroll taxes. Well, that gets my attention really quick. You take somebody that's got 25 employees, you're talking almost $14,000 a year that we save them back to their bottom line, but it's not a write it off at the end of the year type of savings. It's next month they're on the program. They're going to put about $1,200 back to the bottom line. And for a 25-person group, an extra $1,200 a month, that moves the needle. It gets higher the bigger they get.
Let me underscore that, Josh. So if I'm understanding what you just said correctly, and I want to make sure that my listeners pick up on this, your program, call it $500 employee, what it does is it creates an immediate savings for the employer from what their contributions for payroll tax is for each of the employees by setting up this program. Do I get that correct?
That's right. Month one, they'll realize those tax savings immediately. With going back to everything we talked about before about the cost of everything and everything going up, there's no business owner that's going to say, nah, I'm good. Just off that alone, makes a huge difference. But what's even better about this is once this program goes into place, it gives all the employees this really robust wellness program that gives them free telehealth, teledentistry. There's a lot of mental health capabilities where they can talk to counselors for critical illness stuff. Critical incident stuff. There's an employee assistance program included, an EAP, where they can talk to attorneys and get legal advice. Obviously, they're not going to represent anybody. It's just asking simple questions, but there's other resources for mental health stuff. There's financial counseling. If they get diagnosed with something, they have some questions about it, they can call and ask a doctor. You think you normally WebMD or Google, they can do that. There's a free telehealth platform, so they can call and talk to doctors, get medicine prescribed, get labs ordered. 90% of the things you do face-to-face can be done over the phone. That's included. There's no copays on it. It's totally free to them. Spouse can use it. Dependents can use it. There's couples counseling. There's substance abuse counseling. We have a health coaching program. They get a private health coach. Tons of things in there. But on top of that, once that goes into place, the program frees up an average of about $150 a month that each employee then gets to spend on supplemental products, and it doesn't change anybody's take-home pay. So the company's saving an average of $550 a person. The employees are going to get this wellness program. They're going to get an average of about $150 to spend each month on benefits, and it doesn't change anybody's take-home pay. It is a true win-win. So really, this program fixes all the problems, anything, that conversation that goes into your head of, hey, I need to do this. I want to do this for my employees. How do I pay for it? What does it look like? How do I implement it? This fixes every bit of that, and it's legal and compliant. Generally, Greg, sometimes, most of the time, if something sounds too good to be true, usually is, right? But it's not really magic. It's just math. It's tax codes. And, I would venture to say most of the people that are listening to this are somewhat familiar with the tax codes, and they also would probably agree I think Benjamin Franklin said it's the most confusing thing in modern history. I think it's up to 90,000 something pages now, and it's just it's a lot. And but that's simply what it is. But we've created a program to where we can go in, implement it, do everything for them, and they just really just have to say yes, and we handle the whole thing from soup to nuts.
So if I was following correctly, when Obamacare came in,
Sure.
part of the code structure, the tax code structure, was to incentivize more preventative care and other modes of treatment, which has evolved into since then being robustly using telehealth and those kind of things. And what your program does is it uses that provision of the tax code. In other words, does what the government wants us to do. And that's why they incentivize it. And by making these changes, you're on the employer side saving someone in the neighborhood of $500 an employee, and on the employee side providing somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 or whatever of budget money. It has to go off of they can't take it home regardless.
Right.
But it can be redirected into other elements of your program, such as providing disability coverage, group life coverage, those type of things that people are not taking advantage of or not being provided because of budgetary concerns. Am I tracking that right?
You got it. You got it. I gave the example when I sit down in front of the employees without this, I kind of have the napkin up here. Well, now I get to sit down with them, kind of get to put the napkin over my arm, and I'm having a conversation with them about what they need and want, not what they can afford. And so instead of it 40-50% of the people getting products, we're averaging over the last 5 years around 98%. There's always somebody in each group that doesn't want to do it, and that's fine. We don't beat them over the head. It is a voluntary program, so the employees don't have to do it. I think it's really silly, and frankly, it's dumb not to do it. But there's always going to be a couple that doesn't. But I mean, it's just it's a total game changer to let people make those decisions on what they want and need versus what they can afford. So that's exactly it.
And you're down there in Alabama, but are you able to work with people throughout the country?
Absolutely. We're in all 50 states, Puerto Rico as well. It's a little different when you get into New York and California, some of the laws and stuff on the insurance side of things, but we right there as well. But yeah, we're in all 50 states. We do stuff all across the country. And we have groups from, I'm not going to say we're not going to do a 5-person group, depending on the situation. If it's a favor for somebody, we do. But generally, 15 to and up. I have a 10,000 person group. We're working on a 100,000 person group. We have a lot of large ones, but I would say probably our average group size is probably that 25 to 80 person groups. That's, your average small business owner in America. We're a fit for that, but also, we can handle the Walmarts and McDonald's of the world too. But probably the most we do are these small business owners on Main Street America.
So for the listeners that are either going to talk to potential clients of theirs about this, or the business listeners, what are some of the exclusionary factors? What is this definitely not a fit for?
Absolutely. So they have to be a W-2 employee. Obviously, if we're dealing with tax savings, that have taxes coming out of their check in order for them to participate there. So anybody has any 1099 contractors, they would not be a fit. It needs to be for full-time non-seasonal employees. If you have a landscaping company where you only work people 5-6 months out of the year, this is not a fit for them. We're looking at things from an annual basis. If somebody's not making very much money, they're not going to pay a lot of taxes. They're not going to have a lot of savings there. So depending on what they pay in taxes dictates how much they have to spend. We're averaging around 150 a person each month, but you might have somebody that have a $15 one. I might have somebody might have 400. So that factors into things. They have to have some type of a health plan to participate in this as well. The code doesn't say that specifically, but anytime there's any type of gray area in the tax code, our practice is what's the most conservative approach possible. And that's always been very well for us. And so I really interpret it as they have to have access to it, but it could be if you squint and stand back 100 feet, it could, mean they have to have it. So we've just kind of taken that stance. And, with that being said, it can be a company sponsored plan. They can be on mom and dad's still. They can be on a spouse's plan or even an individual policy. As long as they have something, that's all that matters. But if you have some employees that don't have health insurance, we have things that we can put in place to make them compliant on that. So don't worry as much on that because we handle the compliance. Now, one caveat to that is if you have an employee that's getting some type of federal funding or federal assistance for their health insurance, they can't participate. That would be a double dip situation. The IRS is very clear about double dipping. You cannot double dip. And so if you got somebody on Medicare or if they're getting a supplement through the marketplace, they can't participate on this. They can have a plan through the marketplace, but if they're getting that supplement, those employees are kind of disqualified. And to get a little nerdy here and deep in the weeds, considering I'm sure there's several attorneys probably listening to this. If a company files as an S corporation, so it's a pass through, everything goes back down to those owners, that owner cannot participate as an employee. So like, for example, I file taxes as an S-Corp. I pay myself a salary each month. I cannot participate as an employee on the program because I'm also one of the owners. Now, my company participates. All my employees can do it. I just can't do it because I would be taking a tax deduction, 2 times there. I'd be saving money as a company, but also as an employee there. And on the pass throughs down to on an S corp, that just doesn't work. So that's really outside of that. That's really your only the only thing that you can or can't do is basically you got to be a W-2 employee. You have to have some type of a health plan. But again, if they don't have it, we have what we call a MEC, a minimal essential coverage plan we can put in place for not much money at all. They can use part of their allotment to pay for that. And then, outside of that, the S-Corp piece. But I've never had a business owner get mad and not do it just because they couldn't participate personally because they saved so much on the business side. Right. But it's pretty simple. I mean, that's really it. Industry doesn't matter. We have several churches and boys and girls clubs and YMCA and nonprofits, and we have for-profits. We have municipalities. We have cities, counties, universities, school systems, plumbers, video stores. Well, video stores not an example. I don't know if there is any of those anymore. That was not a good example. But it's just really anything in between. The only criteria is that W-2 piece, how they're structured corporately doesn't really matter for the profit or nonprofit.
So as we wrap up this recording, Josh, if any business owner wanted to get a hold of you or anybody wanted to get a hold of you to find out a little bit more about your process and how this works, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I think the easiest thing to do is just shoot me an email. In the subject line, put Greg's name in there so I know where you came from and who I'm talking to. My email address is, my personal email is Josh, it's Josh at citadelbg.com. And that's CITADLBG, like boy girl.com. That's the best way to do. Shoot me an email. We'll get something scheduled. We can jump on a Zoom and be happy to walk you through. Obviously, we've gone a very 5,000-foot view on this. We can get real deep in the weeds, and I'll show you how the in and out the money works and the tax codes, and answer any questions you might have. If you've got a you might want this for your business, or if you have a client you think this would be a good fit for, we'd love to work with you on that.
From one small business owner to another, with the increase in cost of everything along the pike, if we've got a handful of employees, what Josh is providing here is an immediate relief to the bottom line, an immediate addition of value to your client, your employees. Somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 a head to your bottom line, and somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 of additional benefits per month for them to improve their family's outlook. Where we are in this economy, where it's heading, we can't find enough tools like this. And that's why I wanted to share this with you, my audience here today. Josh, thank you for your time. Thank you for your mission. I look forward to helping many small businesses take advantage of this opportunity to provide some immediate relief to their own bottom line.
Yeah, Greg, thanks so much for having me on, man. I've really enjoyed our conversation today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you for listening to the March to a Million podcast. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available, and get in touch with our team by visiting our website at www.wealthsolutionsgroup.biz, or give us a call at 614-432-8065. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Wealth Solutions Network. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice from qualified financial service providers with any questions you may have.